What's up, Desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back with another video. And today I'm joined by Michael Galley, who's on the ground there at the 2020 Mr Olympia, and we're doing our deep dive, and we're going to go over every division, at least discuss the winners of every class, and go deep on the 2020 Mr Olympia Open Bodybuilding lineup. Mick, first of all, how was the 2020 Mr Olympia? It looked amazing. Stage production was like next level. How did you find the whole experience being there?
Absolutely, man, fantastic. I had the time of my life. Wasn't the same without all you guys being able to be over here. Obviously, Australians can't travel to the States, but I love the production. The whole setup of the stage was fantastic. The lighting was great. The competitors were all looking insane. It's unreal. I really enjoyed it. Mate, I actually was at SeaWorld all day today. It's Sunday. So I enjoyed the whole day there. Thanks to my girl back home. So she got me an early Christmas present for that. So I've been literally walking miles all day long. It's a huge park. So I've had a great whole Olympia weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, no, man, it looked amazing. Like, I was so jealous of you being there, but at the same time, I'm like, sort of easier to cover when I'm just sitting at home, and just being able to do it that way. But even though I've got, 4 kids in the household, it was still actually pretty good. But man, like, you should have seen my operation back here. It's like, it's a pretty budget operation what I've got going on. I've got the office where my son sleeps. He sleeps behind the green screen. And then I've got, when he was going to sleep, I was having to get my iMac, my laptop, everything I sit it on, my microphones and everything, take it out into the other room. And then when I recorded videos out there, if people were awake, which most of the time they weren't because it's the middle of the night, I would have to just tell everyone, you have to be quiet. Everyone has to be quiet, no noise. So yeah, man, it was a different sort of operation. So I'm looking forward to hopefully getting this channel a bit bigger, and I'll be able to get a whole setup and soundproof a room and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, fingers crossed. Awesome. But man, let's get straight into it and discuss the bodybuilding, because it looked absolutely next level. I'm going to share my screen so we can go over some of these competitors and have a look at how everyone was looking as well. But I suppose, what did you think about Big Ramy winning the 2020 Mr Olympia? Was it well deserved, and did you have him in first place?
Absolutely. Oh, I thought that as we all know, that's the best Ramy we've ever seen. And I was texting you a fair bit on Friday, just with how good he looked. I was pretty close to the front for the pre-judging. So he was extremely impressive. And we know that Chad Nichols, this was their second comp together, prepping. So he started to get to know his body really well. We also had Dennis James in his corner as well. But let's not forget, Dennis prepped Ronnie Coleman for his 8 wins. So this is another Mr Olympia for Chad as well. What can you say? He was too big. He was too hard. He was just dominant.
Yeah, the size difference, especially, I suppose, at the finals when he looked even crisper, man. Like, that's the thing. When I'm obviously, friends with Brandon Curry, so I was rooting for Brandon Curry, even though I, try to stay subjective as possible when I do my reviews and everything. When I saw Ramy come out and look better at finals, because he obviously looked his best ever at prejudging, and then he looked, I think, even a lot better at finals again. I was sort of like, good for Ramy, but damn for Brandon, because I knew it was close. I thought it was close between Ramy and Brandon at the prejudging. I think, at the prejudging, Brandon sort of faded a little bit, and then Ramy sort of got better. So I was like, when prejudging ended, I thought, it's pretty close. And then at finals, I think Ramy really shut the door on absolutely everyone, to be honest. I thought that he was just superior, but obviously, it goes to show it was very, very close, because Ramy didn't get straight first at finals. And I'll bring up the scorecards as well, so we can quickly go over what went down. So as you can see here, you got Big Ramy, which is Mamdouh Elssbiay, across this line. He had 8 points after prejudging, so he's in first place still, but straight first would be 5 points. And then you can see down here, Heath finished on 11 points at prejudging. And then you had Brandon Curry on 13. So Brandon Curry was actually third place after prejudging, which sort of surprised me, because I thought Brandon was actually better at the prejudging rather than the finals, because I think everyone improved at the finals, and Brandon Curry, I suppose, out of that top 5, and Brandon Curry was one who didn't improve after the prejudging. So I was surprised that Brandon Curry was down in that spot, but it goes to show, because Brandon Curry didn't get straight thirds. He must have got some second place votes, maybe even got a first place vote or 2 as well. And the same as Heath, he must have got maybe a couple of thirds and a couple of seconds and a couple of firsts or something to give that score of 11. So obviously the judges didn't know how to place it, and it shows how close that top 4 or top 5 even really was, because then at finals, Big Ramy gets straight first, finished with a score of 5. Brandon Curry, I mean, it's actually confusing, because I'm looking at the judging and he says 15, so it looks like he got straight thirds. And then you had Heath. Oh yeah, he did get straight thirds at finals, or maybe he got some fourths and maybe some seconds and maybe some thirds. And then you had Phil Heath at finals getting straight fourths, and then Hardy Chupin getting straight seconds at finals. So these judges, obviously, like they saw the changes in physiques and really moved it around. But I think you had a different perspective in terms of what went down, in terms of who looked better and who you had placing where, because you were very impressed with Phil Heath actually at the finals, but he actually looked like he got straight fourth. So what did you think about, I suppose, those judging calls, because you're obviously there?
Yeah, well, I mean, prejudging, Phil was he was off. There was no doubt about it. So I wouldn't have had him in second after the prejudging. The finals, he definitely came back a lot harder. But I still had Ramy ahead of him in the finals, and also I was still edging more towards Brandon as well, and probably Phil third. If Phil had ended up in fourth, I wouldn't have had any issue with that either. I thought Hattie easily could have swapped places with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see Phil was obviously, he was in condition, you know what I mean? Like the conditioning was there. He still had the you know, the cables and stuff in the glutes, but I don't think it was as in the hamstrings, but it wasn't as pronounced as it was in prior years, in my opinion. You know, you still see, obviously he's still got a ton of muscle. He's still, you know, in his 40s looking pretty damn impressive, obviously, still third best in the world. And I think, man, he earned it. Like he earned his position. Midsection. Sorry.
Those photos, those stage ones, there's a lot of stage ones getting around that are edited as well.
They're filtered, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely highlights him a lot more than that. But there's no doubt he was in condition, especially on the Saturday night. But he wasn't in that razor condition that he usually has, say, a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And that, I think that was, I suppose, the issue. And we're used to seeing Phil one way, and then we see him slightly off. And his back was not as big as it was in the past. And I did a video actually where I compared Phil Heath 2018 to 2020. And the midsection, you know, like he's got more sharpness around his intercostals and serratus. You see here as well, Brandon Curry and Phil Heath, which that was a battle in itself, really, because that was, I suppose, the lead up. Everyone was talking about Brandon Curry versus Phil Heath, and had Big Ramy not actually got that special invite, we'd have Brandon Curry repeating as 2020 Mr Olympia, and then we'd have Phil Heath coming in second. So he would have, you know, obviously taken out Phil and won that Olympia title. And it's just such a different narrative now that Big Ramy got that special invite and was able to win. So I do think Phil's midsection was, overall, I think the issue was not fixed. I mean, he did have surgery and everything, but the issue was still there. I'm very interested to hear, I suppose, what Phil says after the Olympia. We've seen very little in the lead up to the Olympia from Phil. We haven't seen much even since the Olympia. So I would love to get some, I suppose, some intel from Phil, whether he'll wait till the doco's out or not, because that's what, you know, he's been working on, and that's probably why he's been so quiet. But I really want to hear, I suppose, the reason why maybe the midsection wasn't improved, or improved a very small amount. I mean, he's definitely more aware of it with the way he's posing. But yeah, for me, it just, I expected it to be even a little bit better than it was.
I think we all did, mate, to be honest. And that's why we thought, okay, this is why he's making the comeback to try number 8, because he would have been sure that that's been fixed. But it was definitely the talking point after prejudging. It stood out. You can see it from this photo you've got here. That's the centerpiece of your physique. So I understand people can have weak body parts, but like we discussed, that's the centerpiece. You're drawn to that. That offsets all the front poses straight away. The front double bi doesn't look as impressive. The front lat spread doesn't look impressive. The side try, the ab and thigh. There's 4 poses.
Exactly, yeah. And Phil always says, you know, it's one body part, but it's like you said, it is the center, and it's the center of every pose apart from the back ones, really. And even the side tricep, you see it, the side chest, you know, you can see it in the transitions are there. So a lot of poses it's involved in. And then obviously the ab and thigh and the front double bicep, it does create like a bit of an eyesore. But man, you got to give him credit where, I suppose, where he did bring it, because you look at his quads here. There's striations through the medialis there, which I probably haven't ever seen from Phil Heath. So he brought things that he hadn't brought before, whether that's just a maturing thing and, you know, more training and everything. He did have some, I suppose, parts of his physique were very impressive. And I think that maybe had he not had the midsection issue, he would have filled up more with food. And I think he probably did that for finals. But he obviously didn't want to fill up too much, probably because of the midsection. So he sort of caught in a weird spot there, where his rest of his physique would look better if he, you know, carved up very heavily and came in super full, but his midsection wasn't going to be good for it. So he was in a very, very tough spot there, I think. And you can see it here as well on the front double bicep. He just doesn't have the flow that he used to have to his physique in that front double bicep, because it used to be a strength. And now, you know, that's sort of what your eyes are drawn to straight away. And when you compare it to Brandon Curry here on the right, where his midsection is amazing on that front double bicep, like I think that's just such a strong shot for Brandon. It definitely hurts.
Yeah, I agree. That's an amazing shot from Brandon.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That's a really good one. So in fourth place, we had Hardy Troop, and I'll bring up his Instagram as well so we can have a look at how he looked. What do you think of Hardy? Because obviously he made a massive jump from prejudging to finals. Man, he even got some fifth place votes at prejudging because he finished on 22 points. 20 points would be straight fourths. So he finished on 22. So he had some people putting him in fifth from a judging panel at prejudging, and then he had straight seconds. So some judges had him jumping from fifth to second from prejudging and finals. Did you see that difference?
Yeah, well, there was a noticeable difference between prejudging and finals. I thought when he came out of finals, he looked really good. He actually looked like his waist looked a little bit tighter. He had the more cuts in the chest and shoulders. His back was noticeably drier as well. So were his quads. And the crowd absolutely went off for him at the finals as well. They love him there too. So actually, when he placed fourth, the boos there was a lot of boos in that audience. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I'm trying to find some photos here, but I don't think he allows anyone to everyone to tag him in photos. But yeah, I thought he looked really good. I was impressed. I mean, at prejudging, I wasn't as impressed. The only thing, man, is the shoulders. So I'll bring up sort of what I was talking about. I'll find something online about his shoulders, but it's could you notice it in person? Because like I notice. Like, I mean, when he's doing he's going into the back double bicep, when he's doing other shots, like I can notice that sort of pointiness to his shoulders on a webcast, but are you sort of, I suppose, in person, do you not notice it as much?
No, that's when I noticed it as well. When he went into that back double bi, brought his arms up and then
Yeah.
down, that's when you could see the two distinctive lumps in both sides. Also, the back lat spread as well. You could see the angle coming out of it as well. That's the only knock I've got on him, mate, because if he had beaten Phil, that wouldn't have, I think that would have been a fair decision. Even if he probably got maybe even second, I still think most people would have agreed with that.
Yeah. No, I agree. So here we got Hardy. Oh, I'll move us. I'll try to open this up a bit bigger. You can sort of see this is from Vancouver last year, so it's not exactly fair to bring this up, but you can see here, that's what I'm talking about right there, where the shoulder sticks up a little bit funny, and it's always that left one as well. So it's saying to me now that it's probably a scar tissue issue, that rather than just being shot or whatever just before the comp, because otherwise why would it always be the left one? You know what I mean? So I don't know, but maybe that's something he can't work out. Maybe it is. I don't know. Do you think some sort of therapy could sort of help sort that out?
It's hard to say, mate. Some people have got scar tissue in there for years and years and can't do anything with it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to see Hardy just not really push that size game anymore for the next year anyway. Just focus totally on detail. So he looks even more freakier next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's back from the back. That's the only place he really needs to improve. Everywhere else, he looks fantastic. His quads, man, I love the look of his quads. They look amazing. His whole legs look crazy. Just pretty much his back and just getting the back harder is what he needs to do. I think that once he does that, he'll be he's already a force, but he's going to be even more of a force and a contender for that, 2021 Mr. Olympia. Had Ramy not been there and he showed up like he was at finals at prejudging as well, that means he would have won. He got straight for a second. So pretty incredible how close it is. And 2021, man, is going to be an absolutely epic year. If we get all these guys come back, if we get a Kai Green, Flex Lewis, we get all the other guys in like Nathan Diash, there's so many names to sort of come back into that lineup that it's going to be super exciting. And we're going to be talking about guys like Akeem Williams being contenders as well. So I cannot wait for 2021 Mr. Olympia, man. In fifth place, we had William Bonac. And now this is a photo 7 hours before the finals. I think he came back dramatically better at finals. Not many people were talking about him because he wasn't in that top four. Everyone's saying Hardy should have been higher. But William Bonac, I mean, very, very impressive look here.
Yeah, he looks so good at the finals, Xavier. Like everything was there again. You can see in this picture as well. Like all the finer details in there. When he turned around to the back and he put his leg back for his back door by, the separation through the hammies into the glutes was just next level. Bonac's got so much muscle on that frame. It's ridiculous. So it was so close between second and fifth. Like really, you could have mixed them all up and it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, for sure. I'll look for a photo of William Bonac from there because a lot of these guys aren't allowing people to tag them in photos on Instagram. But yeah, I was super impressed with his look at finals. Pre-judging, I was like, he looks good, but finals, he just went to an absolute another level, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Before we get these photos up, let's talk about sixth place finisher Akeem Williams, who was absolutely freaky. Man, like he shocked me at how good he looked against these other guys. What did you think in person?
Yeah, I thought he was unreal, mate. To see Akeem in the top 6 is just, it's something a lot of people have been waiting for as well over the last few years. Everyone knew he had the tools to do it. He's finally dialed it in really well, and that was a good improvement. He got 9th last year, so he's bumped it up to 6th. So that's really good. I can see him moving up the placings again next year, with potentially a couple of guys not doing it.
Yeah, I think so too, man. And you never know who's actually going to show up. I mean, if you get a Flex Laws coming in, you get a Kai Green, you get a few other guys, then it might make it a little bit harder, but you just don't know who's actually going to show up on stage. Now, this is Akeem's, like traditionally, his weakness is his back double bicep, very much improved. Can there be a little bit more detail in there? Sure. And that's what will take him from being a 6th to being, not even a first call out, because he was first call out, but like a top 3 sort of guy. But pretty impressed, man. Because that's
side shot of him there.
Sorry?
Have you got a side shot of him there?
I'll get one, because that side quad is ridiculous. I know what you're talking about.
Hammy to quad from the side is nuts.
Has to be one here. Oh, he's teasing us. But yeah, like you said, his side quad is ridiculous. Check out this. You can see his conditioning here backstage.
Yeah, that's a good
shot. Got those lines through the chest.
That's the other thing, Zane. Did you notice how awesome the backstage pump-up room was?
It was absolutely next level. It was ridiculous.
And Jake and Dan, they literally thought of everything.
Here we go.
That's crazy. And that doesn't even do it justice. Like that, it was so deep. Those cuts in that quad into the hammy glute is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, you compare it to all these other guys as well. William Bonac is super, super shredded, and you look at that compared to Akeem, and then you go down to like Hunter Labrada, who we've seen all his pre-contest photos. Compare that to Akeem. Akeem's you just don't see anyone look like that. It just looks ridiculous. So.
No, Akeem and Ramy have that very similar look with the glutes, but they're the only two that have got it, that real deep sort of cut.
Yeah, and you even compare Ramy's to Akeem's, and Akeem's it sort of looks even more ridiculous. Ramy's is just bigger. But let's discuss 7th place finisher Ian Valliere. Now, Ian Valliere and Hunter Labrada were tied after prejudging on 35 points. And then Ian Valliere pulls ahead at finals. And man, I didn't think Ian Valliere was actually going to beat Hunter at this show. I thought, nah, he won't beat him. Whatever. Ian Valliere shocked me. I think he looked really good at this contest. He nailed that sort of combination between fullness and hardness. What did you think in person of the battle between Hunter and Ian?
I didn't expect him to beat him either, to be honest with you, mate. But his coach, Pat Tour, who is I love Pat. He's such a good guy. They've got Ian's body down pat now after a few competitions back to back, and Ian was absolutely diced from head to toe. I personally thought Hunter might have beaten him, but and again, I was pretty close. But then, and I don't often say this, going through all the photos and more video footage, it was probably okay. I can see how Ian beat him, but that's definitely the best package he's brought. I think he placed 14th in 2018, didn't he?
Somewhere around there. I know it was well outside the top 10. I thought to myself, oh, he could be higher. But obviously he's got redemption on that 14th place now, and he looks awesome. And I'm excited to see, I suppose, what he does in the future, because he still has body parts that he can improve. I mean, he's improved his back tremendously. You can see here, his back looks much, much better than what it was. Yeah. His glutes have improved as well. His hamstrings look really good. So those back shots are looking better, which definitely helps. Can his chest get better? Absolutely. If he improves his chest a bit more and his back even a bit more, then he's just going to keep climbing places, and finishing 7th in an Olympia, still having, plenty of improvements that he can actually make. It's pretty exciting, in my opinion.
Yeah. And let's not forget he preps Bumstead as well.
Yeah, so it was a good weekend for Ian Valliere. Let's quickly discuss Hunter Labrada. Now, I've already looked really, really good. I suppose the thing about Hunter is he can get, I'd say, a little bit drier. That's the sort of look when you see him, you can get maybe a little bit more separation, a little bit drier in certain body parts, like more through the legs. But, overall, very impressive Hunter. You can't say too much negative about Hunter, because, it's his first Olympia at 27 odd years of age or something?
Yeah, 27. And yeah, agree, man. This is the start of his career, which is going to be a fantastic career as well. I agree. I think he could have been a bit drier, and he was on track to do that. His lead-up pitches, he was looking better than Tampa all the way up to this show. So I'm not sure what happened right at the end. Great physique, though. Fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where he goes.
Yeah. Now, you were obviously at Tampa as well, weren't you?
Yes.
So was he worse or better than Tampa?
Do you know what? I'm guessing, I'm thinking probably about the same.
Yep.
He was maybe a little bit bigger at the Olympia, same sort of condition, but the lead up photos to the Olympia, even at 2 weeks or 1 week out, he looked like he was on track to beat Tampa.
Yep. Yeah. Let's discuss Dexter Jackson in 9th place. Obviously, Dexter wasn't a Dexter of old, but we got to see an amazing celebration on stage, man. And all his family, and I don't know if it was family and friends or who they all were, but they, all like ran the stage. And when it happened, I was like, I looked away for a second because I was doing an image or something. I just heard the music, and then I looked back up. I'm like, what? Why are people running on the stage? I was just like confused for a second, man. I quickly put it together that it must be his family or whatever. But man, that was a pretty emotional speech, and he's obviously going into the supplement game as well, following the footsteps of many of these top pros. Obviously, Brandon Curry, who just launched his supplement company as well. What do you think of Dexter's last performance, and how was it, I suppose, in the actual building?
He got a standing ovation for quite a while. Actually, everyone stood up as he walked out. Everyone stood up when he spoke after his routine as well. He had his wife run out, his mum, his kids, his grandkids. It was pretty emotional there because most of us that have been in this game for a while, we've seen Dexter since his first Olympia was 1999. That's nuts when you think about that. So not the Dexter of old, but again, I mean, at 51 years of age, he looked damn amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The right time for him to go out, and I'm so glad I was there to witness that, his last show.
Yeah, for sure. And I was thinking myself of doing because a lot of channels do this, like the biggest disappointments of the Olympia, or then I want to do the biggest highlights of the Olympia or whatever. I can't put Dexter in my biggest disappointments, man, because he's 51 years of age. If someone says Dexter, the way Dexter looked was a disappointment, you're taking into context how he looked at the start of a year when, he was only 1 year younger pretty much, but you can't say Dexter Jackson's a disappointment. I feel like it's disrespectful to Dexter Jackson if people do say that, because still top 10 in the world at 51 in this game is beyond ridiculous. And I think we even, everyone highlights it, but then I think we sort of still forget the actual reality of being 51 years old and looking what he looks like,
Yeah. And he was in great shape. He was in conditions Saturday night. He was looking very sharp.
Yeah. And he always he pretty much does 2 shows every year, like peaks twice every year, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But let's move on to 10th place, Justin Rodriguez. Man, what an Olympia debut for Justin. I've already looked sensational.
Yeah, I think we both had him 10th in our picks a few weeks ago. Yeah. So I was very impressed when he walked out on stage. He looked great. He had a good tan, good fullness. He was hard. I mean, he's prepped by AJ Sims Cement Factory. So AJ is very well known for getting his clients in extreme condition every time. So he was, he looked good in that top 10, and he can only move up.
For sure. There's not too many pictures of him here, but that's probably not the best one of him either. You can say they all look sort of a little bit soft from that angle. But I've already looked really good, man. He's improved. He keeps time after time bringing his best package to the stage, and the improvements he made from 2019 to 2020, absolutely ridiculous. So I'm excited to see what Justin Rodriguez does in future years, and that's sort of his money shot, that back double bicep. I think it looks awesome. And, if he keeps improving and that back double bicep improves even more, that's literally, he could have the best back double bicep in the world, I think, in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, that's thick. Everything, it's an impressive shot.
So that's pretty much the lineup. One other guy I just wanted to quickly highlight that I thought maybe was a little bit overlooked was Antoine Vaillant. What did you think of Antoine? Do you think 14th place was, I suppose, maybe looking over him, I suppose, a little bit? Because I thought his conditioning was really good, by the pay-per-view. What did you think?
His conditioning was great in person. He looked really, really good. He posed well, had a good routine. He did a few poses there that I've never seen before that suited his physique brilliantly. I'm a big fan of Antoine. I think he's got a great attitude for the sport. He's come back from some severe hardships that we all know about. So to see him up there in the Olympia lineup, he's only going to get better, man. He's going to have another good year next year.
Absolutely. And you can see here, he's obviously, doing your first Mr. Olympia. He's getting photos with all the dudes and stuff. And you can just sort of see like Antoine looks sensational, obviously standing by himself. Then you put him next to Brandon Curry and you can really sort of see the size difference there. You look at the chest, Brandon Curry's looks about 3 times bigger, just super, super round. And Antoine, obviously, his legs are his strength anyway. So you put his legs next to Brandon's and he's got better legs, you know what I mean? But still, you can still see that difference and how far I suppose he still needs to go. But honestly, his conditioning sort of made up for some of that size that he lacks compared to the top guys. And when I say lack size, I mean, it's relative, we're talking about the very, very, very best guys in the world. So very impressive Mr. Olympia debut from Antoine. I'm sure we're going to see him there, man, for years to come. And 14th in the world isn't too bad at all.
No.
So let's move on. Back next yeah, for sure. So let's move on, discuss the 212s and what went down there, because it was a decision that was obviously extremely close. It was 1 point decision. Shaun Clarida beats Kamal El-Gagni and wins that 212 Olympia title. What did you think about the decision? What did you think about Shaun Clarida?
He's like a mini Ronnie Coleman, to be honest. I couldn't believe the amount of muscle he stacked on his body, especially in the last year. Was just crazy. And it was hard muscle as well. I'm a fan of Kamal. Like I just love how he looks. So I obviously wanted him to win. I can see why Shaun won, but if they'd switched places, I don't think too many people would have cared. But Shaun winning was deserved. He looked fantastic, and it just sets it up for next year being Kamal coming back again and see what can happen.
Yeah, and the thing is as well about it is that Shaun Clarida, there's only one more judge that had him winning than Kamal. There's some judges that said Kamal's winning. You know what I mean? And people forget that. They're like, oh, he won, and that's, Kamal can't get it back. I mean, Kamal made massive improvements from last year to this year, and he still lost it. So you can see Shaun Clarida here. You can see he's got a ridiculous physique. I just think maybe when he stood next to Kamal, I like at the prejudging, I had Kamal. At finals, I thought, okay, it's close. So I sort of saw it like that. For some reason, the scorecard just shows basically, I think when you look at it, it just says total and it doesn't actually differentiate the prejudging to finals on this. But you can see obviously Shaun Clarida finished on 7, Kamal finished on 8 points there. So yeah, an interesting one. And I just want to mention as well, one more guy, George Peterson gets straight thirds and his first, 212 Olympia. What did you think of George Peterson? Because man, when he walked out of prejudging, compared to a lot of the other guys, he was polished. I mean, he wasn't as shredded as maybe he was in the classic, but he was still in great condition. What did you think of George Peterson?
He looked great. I thought he looked fantastic. And to place top 3, there's some good guys in that lineup. So to place top 3 in his first 212 Olympia is damn impressive.
Yeah, and he wasn't as thick as some of these other guys, but man, like you can see he looked polished. He's like whatever shine he had on him or whatever, it just looked amazing. Like when he walked out, I was actually talking to Aaron Pilates at the time, who, should have been in this lineup had he been able to travel to America. You could tell he was, the way he was talking to me, he wanted to be there very, very badly. The thing we said to each other, we said, man, he looks polished. He just looks polished.
I was literally just about to say the same thing to you. I was texting Aaron yesterday and today as well. And Aaron's just saying, that is just really fired me up to come back. And I said, dude, you got to get back up on that stage.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see him up there again.
He, I think Aaron can do massive things in the 212s, but we won't discuss that now. We'll go into the classic physique, and Chris Bumstead wins this one versus you wouldn't probably even say versus Breon Ansley, you'd say versus Terrence Ruffin and Breon Ansley, because really this was, I suppose, what was highlighted, this, competition between Breon and Chris Bumstead. I think Chris Bumstead, I did my prejudging wrap up and I thought, maybe it's, 2 poses all, then Chris wins the classic pose and maybe Chris wins the quarter turns. But when it came down to it and I looked at more of the footage and more photos, I was like, actually Chris Bumstead's actually winning this. He's made massive improvements. I thought Breon improved too, but I think Chris actually improved even more. So, and I was sort of like last minute, I did my more predictions and I went with Chris Bumstead just based off a photo I actually saw from the actual weigh-in. Because Chris Bumstead, they did a front double bicep and I looked at his waist to shoulder ratio and how far his stomach was actually going in on the vacuum. And I was like, yeah, I can't deny that. Chris Bumstead looks absolutely ridiculous. So did you see it as being an easy choice to have Chris Bumstead winning?
I didn't before they got on stage. And funny you say that with the vacuum, you might notice when they were doing the pose down, he did the vacuum, but he turned side on and he made sure did see how tight and small that waist was from the side. It was very impressive. I think he dominated in nearly every pose. It was huge improvements from Chris. I mean, Breon improved a lot as well, but like all of us, we thought it was going to be Breon, Chris, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So I was a bit surprised, I guess, when they announced Breon as third, but I can see why Terence got second.
Yeah, you can see the improvement here. Someone told me that his weight was the same. I mean, here, I don't know if the scale's slightly off. He might be slightly bigger on this one, but I'm actually going to do a comparison video of Chris Bumstead, probably 2019, maybe even include 2018, and his transformation through the years, because that looks like a lot to me. Like, I don't know about you. Just look at the glutes alone.
Yeah,
Like,
I haven't seen that before. That's ridiculous.
yeah, it looks absolutely insane. So whether the actual scale's off or not, I'll do it and I'll scale them all. I'll try to scale them all perfectly and get the heights right. But that just looks like two totally different competitors to me.
Yeah. Look at the thickness in the lower lats.
Yeah. Yeah, but it just wasn't there before.
2009.
So he smashed his back this year and it was a lot better.
I'll give it to him then. That's someone who's driven and was actually focused. It looks like the whole, I mean, as was Breon, but Chris has obviously put his head down for that whole year.
Yeah. Check out these guys. They tag Chris Bumstead in their photos. I just got to highlight that.
What's he reading?
Como Frazier Amigos and Influencer Persona.
That's a good book. I read that. That's a good book.
That's my favorite. Anyway, I just want to quickly discuss Terence Ruffin, who finished in second place, beat Breon Anzi by 1 point. What do you think of Terence? Obviously, the best poser, in my opinion, in all of the IFB right now. What do you think of his physique, and did he deserve second over Breon?
Pose and routine was just next level. I mean, I couldn't take my eyes off him doing that. I thought it was fantastic. He was doing poses that suited his body so well. He was conditioned too. He really was conditioned head to toe. So I can see him. Yeah, I can see him in that second place. I guess I was just, like I said before, in my head, I was just constantly thinking Breon,
yep.
Not picturing anyone else getting into that top two. So it just took me back a little bit.
I wonder how much weight he can actually gain in a classic physique, because in some poses, like I think it's a side chest and a few other ones, he looks a little bit small, especially compared to a Chris Bumstead. It looks just not even close. But I'm very interested to see how much weight he can add, because if he's got, a decent amount that he can add, then that's crazy exciting. And then he can just literally collect second places at the Olympia probably for a few years, unless maybe Brian Jones comes in and brings something really crazy. Because you just look at the way he poses and the way he's standing there. That's absolutely amazing. Like, it looks crazy. And the way he can contort his body and move his hips. So we had a little technical difficulty there with mixed internet connection, but we are back and we're going to touch on these other divisions as well. And the Miss Olympia, first year, it's back. Jake Wood, obviously being the owner of the Olympia now, passionate about the women's side of the sport. Man, it was a convincing win for me. Andrea Shaw? She takes it out straight first. What do you think of this girl's physique? Because I thought she looked absolutely phenomenal, and that's what women's bodybuilding should be, pretty much.
No, I agree, David. I thought she looked amazing. Those biceps were just next level. I would kill for arms like that.
Oh, they're ridiculous, man. They're absolutely ridiculous. I was looking at them and I was just like, I want those arms. I want them for myself. There should definitely be one on this page. Here we go. This side tricep. It's a bit of a small photo, but as you can see here, to me, she's a standout. I mean, these other girls are fantastic as well, like Helly Trevino and Margie Martin. Great competitors as well, but she was just a standout. The muscle bellies were absolutely crazy, like out of control. Let's move on to the next division. We had the Fitness Olympia. What did you think of this one, Mick? Because Missy Truscott wins this. There was a little bit of controversy when they announced it, because they announced Missy in second. And I'm assuming Oksana Grashina thought she won it. And they had to say, oh, wait, we just want to get the decision right. And obviously they switched it up. Missy gave a second place award back and she announced the winner. What do you think of Missy Truscott, and did she deserve to win?
I definitely think she deserved it. Her physique looked unreal, and I think that counts for 1/3 of the score. Obviously, the rest is for the routine, which she had a fantastic routine as well. Actually, the whole top three did, but I just think Missy fits that criteria nicely, and she could be owning that title for the next few years.
Absolutely. She was definitely, to me, like, don't get me wrong, I thought that what's her name, Whitney Jones, who won last year, that was the best routine I've seen her do. I thought that was her all-time best, and it was only good enough for third, which sucks for her, because I actually felt for her a little bit after I heard her announce being third. But yeah, Missy Truscott was absolutely sensational. Physique, I think her physique was the best, and that's where she won it, because Oksana Grashina actually had a better score at the finals in the routine round, which, you know, was debatable anyway, because I thought Missy's routine was very, very good. So an impressive showing there from Missy Truscott. We move on. Sorry, wrong page there. Next division we're going to discuss is the figure Olympia. What did you think of Sydney Gillen? Because I thought she was a walk-away winner.
Easy win, mate. As I said to you, I think when we were texting, when she walked out, her quads are just next level. She just dominates that class, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought so too, man. Like, she's just sensational. Her shape is crazy. I'm seeing if I can pull up a photo of the way she actually looked. I don't know if there's any photos right here, but yeah, her quads are absolutely ridiculous. I was very, very impressed with her. And I think she's won 4 now, but I think she's going to continue to win Olympia titles. We'll move on to the bikini. We'll move on to bikini. Janet Leung wins this one. She's come, I think, second several times. She's actually like a mum of several kids as well, and she definitely doesn't look it. I'll bring up a photo of her, but what did you think of her? Do you think she deserved the win?
I think she did, mate. She looked great out of the top 5 girls that were named at the end. And like you said, she's got second so many times leading up to this comp. So it was awesome to see her finally get that win. And yeah, she was stoked. She was really stoked on stage when she was talking to Bob Ciccarello.
Yeah, you can tell she's pretty happy here.
That's a good photo.
That is a cool photo.
My trophy. This is mine.
Yeah, she definitely wins for selfie game there. Let's move on, discuss about our next division. We had, let's bikini Olympia as well. We had the women's physique. Now, this one was controversial. Shanique Grants gets beaten by 1 point against Sarah Valagas. What do you think about it? To me, I didn't see it going that way. What did you think being there in person?
I didn't see it going that way. I don't think anyone I spoke to saw it going that way. Anyone I've spoken to on the phone or at the venue, I don't even think the Dolphins at SeaWorld today thought that was the correct decision. So
why did she win?
I don't know, Zave. I mean, yeah, Shanique just looked awesome. She does look like Miss Olympia standing there. She looks brilliant. So that said, she took it with a smile. She put up a great Instagram story as well. She was a gracious in defeat as much as she is in winning. She'll be back next year. She'll get that title back next year.
Yeah, I'm convinced of it as well, because, man, her physique is incredible. Like, you look at it here. Let's bring it up. That is just ridiculous. Like, when I saw this photo, I actually said, Mick, like I said to you, are her delts too big? Because obviously here, you know,
yes,
she's got
remember that,
but you can see there's not much upper chest or anything like that development. But on stage, she's actually smart, man. What she did in that pose when she's at the front, she had her hair going down in between that spot, so you can't even notice the difference. So there was no problem with that. There's no problem with having delts that big, and I think it just looks sensational. And they don't look as they do look huge, but they don't look as huge on stage. They look proportionate, because I suppose her waist and everything's so small that you think, wow, she's huge. She's not as huge as you'd actually think, because, you know, because her waist is so small. But when you see this photo, you go, wow, she's enormous.
It's very deceiving, because she, like this photo here, because she has that extremely slim waist, wide delts. I mean, look at the lines in her legs as well. She's got extreme detail in those legs. So it is very deceiving. And once you see her on stage, you can just see that she's just meant for that category, that look.
Yeah, she's crazy, man. Like, I think she deserves it. Sarah Valagas, don't get me wrong, man. By saying this, Sarah Valagas has a sensational physique. I think she is absolutely awesome. When I was looking at her pre-contest stuff, I was like, she is incredible. You can see here in the side of her leg here, she is shredded. Like, there is no doubting that is very, very lean. Great physique. One thing I will say, like, you can see here, when she poses on stage, now she looks like she's got great arms there, but her biceps look very flat. One thing Shanique Grant doesn't have, she's, you know, a lot rounder. She has sensational legs. She has a sensational back. So you can't take too much away from her. You see here flexing the legs. They're awesome. Like, there's no doubt.
Well, look at the teardrop. You don't see that very often in a lot of women. She had very complete legs. If Shanique wasn't in there, and Sarah was obviously, you know, won, and Shanique wasn't there, we'd all be praising how awesome it was and how dominant she looks. So I guess it's one of those things. But look at that. That's ridiculous. Those legs are next level. Any guy would kill for legs like that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So overall, an awesome Olympia. I want to thank you, Mick, for doing this review. It's been amazing. Like, I'm sure you had an amazing time. It looked next level and super, super jealous. I'm hoping next year I can actually be there with you, enjoying the 2021 Mr. Olympia. And hopefully we see the return of Flex Lewis, but in the open class, we see maybe Kai Green get in there. We see Rolly Winkler not having coronavirus and being able to step on stage, and a whole bunch of other guys. And man, like, if you had another 4 guys in that lineup, imagine the top 6 now plus 4 other guys. That could be the craziest top 10, I think, of all time in a Mr. Olympia. So fingers crossed we actually get to see that.
Yeah, I think you're right too. Hey, actually, while we're here, look at this. So that's the room key for the Hyatt Regency, the official. So they printed them. They went all out. There's banners everywhere showing the Olympia. It's, oh man, real. Jake and Dan are just like a well, and the Manions and Tamer, they're a well-oiled machine. So imagine another year of getting ready for the Olympia.
Absolutely. I mean, even the first year that Dan was in there, I believe he improved it in a very tough year where he had competitors dropping out left and right. So I felt bad for him last year, felt worse for him this year because of what he had to go through. But man, the whole team, like you said, Tamer, Dan, the Manions, Jake Wood, like Jake Wood is the one I want to give the biggest shout out to, man, because I mentioned it time and time again on this channel, but this dude saved bodybuilding. If there was no Jake Wood, bodybuilding would not have happened in 2020. It literally would have had the Arnold Classic and would have been a wrap pretty much for 2020. It would have hurt the industry, would have hurt, supplement companies, and people not being able to go to these shows and all this sort of stuff. The trickle down effect would have been massive in terms of people not competing. People, there might have been people prepping for shows that decided, not to compete, obviously, because they couldn't compete, and then they just never compete again. And that could have been the next Shanique Graham, that could have been the next Phil Heath, or that could have been someone else, and then they go find something else. So what he's done for bodybuilding, I cannot thank him enough. And man, just literally my channel. What would have happened to my channel if there's no bodybuilding in 2020? It would have sucked. It would have been talking about in 2021, of what's this guy saying to this guy, and it would have been a gossip channel, and it wouldn't have been as much fun as it was. So man, like, honestly, I think everyone should be praising Jake Wood nonstop. He put his money where his mouth is. He lost a ton of money, I'm sure, this year on the Mr. Olympia. But man, credit to him, and he's going to go down in bodybuilding no matter what happens. No matter if he sold the Olympia tomorrow, he'll go down in bodybuilding history as someone who's done something massive for bodybuilding. So shout out to him.
And he came out to it and addressed the crowd at the finals, and I thought he spoke from the heart. You could see the emotion that he's put into all this. He's put everything into this show, and he was never ever. You got to remind people of that. There was quitting and saying no was just. That was not a word he was gonna take on board. So they just pushed through and they got it done. I love that.
Yeah, we were very lucky. It's a new era of bodybuilding. Now the Olympia has been taken over by new management, and I hope it never goes back, I suppose, to the way it was being owned by this big corporation that cares about dollars and cents and doesn't care about the sport as much. So I'm hoping that it stays in Jake Wood's hands and he lives a long, long time, so we have bodybuilding in a very good situation. So anyway, that's it. The story of the day is Big Ramy wins for 2020 Mr. Olympia and becomes the 16th Mr. Olympia of all time, coming off a special invite as well. So if that special invite never happened, history would be very different right now. So that's it for me, Xavier Wills and Michael Galley. Guys, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up for myself, Xavier Wills, at Desktop Bodybuilding. And Mick and I will be back next week for another episode of a weekly bodybuilding breakdown. So for Xavier Wills and Michael Galley, we are out.